everybody, and welcome back to episode 7 of Beyond the Spotlight. I am here today with
Rebecca Wood.
Please tell us a little about yourself.
I moved to the US like 5 years ago.
Okay.
I always say that I'm from London because that was the last place I lived.
Okay.
But I grew up mostly on the Isle of Wight, which is like a small little island off the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I was born in Tennessee, so I'm actually a little
so you
Southern
have
gal.
Citizenship.
Yeah, I do.
Lucky
Sorry,
gal.
I know.
Gal.
I know.
And Rebecca and I went to the same acting school.
We did
the
indeed.
American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
Mm-hmm. No classes together though.
No classes together.
Not one.
Crazy.
No shows either.
But yeah.
No shows.
But we both majored, or we both did the 2-year.
Both did the 2-year
conservatory.
Yeah.
And yeah. So what are you up to now?
At the moment, just a lot of working.
Yeah.
Boring, regular muggle jobs. And then waiting. So I'm waiting to do my first feature film, but there's been some scheduling conflicts, so just waiting on that. But that's going to be this year. I don't know when. But that's exciting. I'm excited for that.
Really
That's
exciting.
Yeah, I'm really super excited.
And you're
for
going to
that.
be filming that in London, right?
So that's going to be in London, yeah. So that's going to be in London. But TBC.
to be confirmed.
To be confirmed.
So we were talking before a little bit
Yeah.
about your job on Broadway, kind of like behind the scenes, a little bit with the food and beverage. So can you just explain a little bit, like, so what do you do? What's your day to day? What's your day to day?
Yeah, day to day. So I'm working at the Lyric Theatre, which is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Okay.
So there's 8 shows a week. I typically try to work at least 6 of those.
Okay.
If my managers watch this, they'll be like, I do try to work at least 6 of those. But yeah, so how it's divided up is like there's the ushering team.
Yeah.
And then because the show was so long, and we still have it now because the show is still kind of long.
Yeah.
They have kind of like in-seat service and different places you can visit within the theatre.
Okay.
So my duties like on the day kind of change.
Okay.
So you could be working like in the shop, or you could be at one of the little mobile bars, or so we have like various locations, or you could be running. There's one job where you're like a runner, and you have to run. So basically, you have to go in front of all of the stalls, like the American orchestra. So like the orchestra, the dress circle, and the balcony.
Yeah.
You have to like go up and do like a little announcement.
Okay.
So you have to shout basically in front of all these people and just let them know that we have like these services. So that's normally a job. And then you're responsible for carrying like up to 100 plus food bags.
Oh my god.
And delivering those to patrons. All glitz and glam.
Okay.
So, yeah, all glitz and glam. But it's fun. It's fun. Like I'm a people person. Like I love it. So I do get
So you like socializing with people.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it can be a lot sometimes when you do it all the time. But just being in that environment can be very rewarding, and also just to people watch. It's the best place in the world. Just to people watch. So I do that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we were also talking a little bit before about your job previously, how you were doing the sound.
Yeah. So I worked as a sound associate.
Okay.
Which was actually it was such a cool job. Such a like a blessing of a job. At the end, I couldn't like honestly manage schedule-wise to do both.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It was working with people with accessibility issues for all of the Broadway
so, like,
shows.
hearing issues.
So it would be like either you're visually impaired and you need audio description, or it would be someone who would need captions or subtitles or things like that, or also just like devices to hear the show. And that was
so
really
you would
cool.
like hand those out?
Yeah, so you
to the
basically
people?
you go in and you test the system of each house. So like you'd go into a Broadway theatre, you'd go through stage door, and then you'd walk into the auditorium and every level check and make sure it's working. And then you would be there to distribute and talk to patrons like before the show starts.
Okay.
You would check in-house when the show starts.
Okay.
And then it was a blessing because I got to watch every single show.
How was that?
Was so
like
cool.
every single Broadway show,
Pretty much
for free.
Yeah.
And you were able to be like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And kind of, like, see a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Production.
Like one of my
and all that.
favorite things ever. I'll take to the bank. Was working appropriate with Sarah Paulson. I got to watch her warm up, and that was the coolest thing in the world. Because she's like my inspiration.
I love Sarah Paulson.
She is. Yeah.
She's the reason I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
Come on, my god.
Oh, that's insane.
Truly phenomenal actress. And like I remember, like I was sitting in the orchestra, like in one of the like front seats, and then like I just look up and Sarah Paulson's there, and she went, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, this is incredible.
Did you panic? I would.
Kind of my soul. And then text everyone I knew. I was like, I just made eye contact with Sarah Paulson, and it was a big deal. It was a very big deal. But yeah, that was like, so you got to bear witness to things that you wouldn't necessarily see. And I always love watching other performers warm up, and especially people that you really admire, being like, okay, so what is it that they do, you know, to get ready and to like feel good before a show.
So how long were you working with Appropriate?
So it was never for like an allotted time. So it's kind of like I'd say every week you got a variation of shows. So it could be like 5 or 6 different shows.
Okay.
So it was always mixed up. So I was never stuck with a show permanently.
Okay.
But I was lucky enough to go back to houses several times and like see a lot of shows a million times. Yeah.
So you got to see a lot of the kind of behind the scenes production.
Oh yeah,
right? Of like how stage managers work, sound managers, light
absolutely.
managers,
and things going wrong. Which was always the coolest thing.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I know with live theater, there is always every night there's a surprise. If it's with sound, if it's with lighting, if it's with an actor.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that.
I've definitely seen some things where you're just okay, so there's 2 that really stick out to me, which are just hilarious and comical.
Yeah.
The first one was Aladdin, where the carpet just didn't fly. The carpet just ceased to work. So it got to like the very end number, which is, you know, like A Whole New World, right? Is it? There we go.
That's like a big, that's a big part of the show.
Yeah. So it's this like epic spectacle at the end. So it didn't end up flying.
And this is in the middle of the show.
So this was, well, it's like, is it end of Act 1 or is it like the final? But yeah, and then so it just stopped working, and from what I heard, so I didn't get to see it at the end, was like they just had to walk out and sing it. Like holding hands through the middle, just singing that song. So I can't even imagine how underwhelming that was for everyone. But Aladdin. And then the other one, which was like so ironic but like brilliant, was in The Play That Goes Wrong. It really did go wrong. It went really wrong. And this is the thing, and this is what's like genius about that show too. It's like if it goes wrong, you can't tell, right? As an audience member, you're kind of on this really cool thing of not knowing what's intentional, what's not intentional, even though in your mind you know.
Because you know the script, you've seen it multiple times.
Yeah. But like you suspend your disbelief for all of it, being like, oh, maybe it's a new bit, maybe they're trying something out today.
Yeah.
And there was it was in Peter Pan. Peter Pan Goes Wrong, and there's a bit where like a body of Peter is meant to like fall, and that ends Act 1.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be an ending of Act 1, hilarious, comical, ha ha ha. It actually ended up happening about like 10 minutes into the show by mistake. Like one of the people backstage had, and I was literally like, someone's getting fired today, had poured something, or like something had happened. So it was in a really like gorgeously funny, intimate scene. But like it's like between Mr. and Mrs. Darling or something. Is that their names? Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Darling. Lovely. A scene with them talking, and then all of a sudden his body just like falls. And I was literally like, wait, what?
That wasn't supposed to happen.
No, it wasn't supposed to happen. I was like, and I was also like, okay, well, also, what are they going to do now?
Right.
How are they going to end?
How are they going to fix that?
No, but also like that's completely ruined their gag at the end of the first act. And I can't really remember, but I remember like the show like shut down, and they were like, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you know, like, stop the show. And I remember audience members being like hilariously laughing, being like, oh my god, what a gag, this is so funny, like, this isn't real. And everyone was like, no, this really is real, like, please stay in your seats, like, this isn't the end of the act, whatever. And then they did have to like rework the end of Act 1, and I can't remember what they did now. But I remember that being a moment of being like, oh wow, like things really go wrong, and also people, and especially performers, I think are just like prepared for the worst to happen.
I think that's the thing you have to be prepared for with live theater. Everything, and you have to be prepared for anything and everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it's live theater, you have a live audience. You can't just stop and be like, can we redo that? No, you just gotta go with it.
Absolutely.
You just have to go with it, you gotta improvise.
Truly, and it's like, as well, sometimes it's not even just the show, it can be the audience members too. Like, think about it now, how many, like, I was watching a video yesterday of The Tempest in London with Sigourney Weaver. That, there were protesters on stage in the middle of like one of the bigger scenes, and like that's happened here too. Like the Enemy of the People, like people just getting up and protesting. So like, and it's great. You hear stories of was it Jeremy Strong who was in that, interacting with them in character and like really engaging in a way where it didn't completely stop the show. But it somehow became part of it, and I think that's like. That's hats off to them as a performer.
Really interesting. So since you've seen a lot of the behind the scenes and stuff, how do stage managers and sound managers and lighting managers, how do they handle crisis? How do they handle the crisis?
I feel like, I think in the best way that anyone can is just to remain as like calm as possible.
Yeah.
Right?
I think the worst thing you can do is panic.
Oh yeah.
Because then you stress everyone else.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I think it's that thing of like, I mean, they're not stupid. They have like continuation things of like, we have a plan A and we have a plan B.
Right.
Like, I'm sure there's things in place if things go really wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I'm sure people have just restarted a scene before. I'm sure that that's happened. Like, you know, that's just something that happens where if it can't be fixed, suspend your disbelief and then we're going to go again.
Okay.
But yeah, it's normally just like a simple, from when I've seen it, it's been like a simple hold of the show and then it's like, okay, well, either find out a new way to like resolve this, like someone just walking through and singing it instead, or restart.
Okay.
I've never seen a show be cancelled.
Okay, me neither. I've been in a lot of shows where, like, I was acting in a lot of shows where they would either mess up either the sound or the lighting.
Really? And for you then, so what did you do in that situation?
It was, one of them was in Borderline, which you actually watched.
Oh, really?
There was two of the, like, major sound cues were completely messed up.
Wait, you said that!
Were completely messed up. The sound guy, he completely messed up the first one. It was supposed to be at the very beginning a cop saying, "Shut the fuck up."
Oh, no way!
But it was so low that you could barely hear it. And then my partner, like my fellow actress, she couldn't hear it. So, and that was her cue to get on stage. Oh, no. So it was just like, so she just kind of improvised it. And then at the end she told me, she's like, I didn't hear it. It never came on. I was like, it did, but it was so low. And then the second one was, the first one was Get In Shithead. And then the second one was Shut the Fuck Up. When we had our little argument.
Okay.
But a song came on. And I was like, oh my god, this guy, what is he on right now?
Okay,
it was so, I mean, we just, like, we went with it. Obviously, we don't give it any attention in the moment. Cause
I honestly, as an audience member, didn't even notice.
Exactly, and everyone that watched the show, they were like, oh, I didn't even notice that anything went wrong. But me, you know, because I rehearsed it multiple times.
You were freaking.
I was in my head, I was like, oh my god, this will be discussed later. And we will get to the bottom of this. But then in the second show, it was fine. He fixed everything. And it was great. But then another time was when I was doing Life Sucks at the Academy and Company.
Oh, really?
And Dalton and I had a scene, and it was Life Sucks. I was Ella and he was my husband. Okay. My old husband. And he sat on a chair, and we were supposed to be in like a heated argument, and his chair just gave out. You could literally hear the...
No! Wait, did it break?
Yeah, it broke on stage and he fell over.
Oh shit!
And that wasn't supposed to happen, right?
Okay,
but
so what did you do?
Well, at first Dalton and I, we just stared at each other. We were like...
No, there's me literally being like, I in that situation would be like...
But I just stayed in character and I was like, my darling! And he also stayed in character and he was like, oh, let me, get up. And I mean, the audience went wild.
I mean,
they loved it. They loved it.
I think
they thought it was part of the part of the show.
Sometimes, and I've heard like actors talk about this as well, like some of the best parts of the show. I can give an example actually.
Yeah.
And it's actually an Academy reference.
Okay.
And if Isabella watches this, she'll know what I mean.
Oh.
Because you were in that show too.
Which one?
Napoli Brooklyn.
Yes, I was.
Oh my god. Okay, so one of my favorite parts. I love that because you're talking about the Academy. I'll bring it back.
Yeah.
Was when the spaghetti fell on the floor.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And she like cussed everyone
Honestly,
out.
that's honestly one of my favourite parts. And as well, and that's what I love, is if people stay in character, it's normally the most authentic moment of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's so exciting is to see people try and figure it out. Like, try and figure it out. And like, we as an audience member know that that's probably not meant to happen. But like, to watch people try and figure out, okay, so how are we going to fix this? And if they stay in character and they're consistent and they're like, dedicated to doing it, that is the coolest fucking thing to watch.
I 100%
I love it.
There's been a lot of times that I would watch a show and I would actually like, I would be thinking, I'm like, was that supposed to happen?
Yeah.
Because I can't tell because if it wasn't, they're playing it off really well.
Oh, 100%.
You know.
But I think as well, like looking for imperfections. I'm gonna give air quotes to that, imperfections, because it's not imperfections, but in terms of like acting standard, right? So like you're given these things where it's like you must never fluff your lines, you must never like kind of make a mistake, or you know, there's kind of those strict rules, right? On point and on the ball. Like me and Em went to go and watch Victoria Pedretti in Tender Napalm, which was at Theatre Labs. She's another actress I really enjoy watching. It was the first time seeing her live, and I was speaking to Em about it afterwards, and she was like, you know, the best part I loved is that she would fluff up her lines. She'd stutter.
Yeah.
She'd restart a line.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it real. That's what makes it so
that's natural.
It's so natural.
Because we do that. We do that all the time.
Exactly.
In conversation.
Exactly, all the time. And it was like, it feels more so honest and authentic. And that's not me being like, everyone should go out there and fluff their lines.
Right.
But like, I think it's about taking those, restraints and that kind of pressure off yourself to be perfect. Like the idea of perfectionism in performance.
Because no one's perfect.
Absolutely not.
No one's perfect. Remember when we were
boring.
we had coffee and we were talking about the script, and I was telling you when I was writing Borderline, and my co-writer, she wrote the lines so perfectly.
The eloquence of it,
The eloquence of it, and I told her, I said, I need to mess it up a little bit. I need to make it messier. I need to add pauses. I need to add overlaps. I needed to add like random swearing here and there, because that's just natural. That's like natural dialogue.
Also, that's what makes it accessible. That's what makes it accessible for an audience, because if you're sat there and you're like, hey, like they're speaking like Siri's just written a little speech, then you become so disconnected and you don't resonate with what you're watching.
Exactly.
Like if you're there and you can resonate, even if it's a character that you resonate with on a personal level, but you can sit there and be like, these are two people talking in real life, seemingly.
Yeah.
That's like,
it's like, so natural. So natural. It doesn't sound like a script.
Exactly.
That's one of my pet peeves, is when a script or dialogue sounds like a script.
100%.
I hate that.
100%.
So I have a question.
Question.
According to you, right? Since you kind of worked a little bit behind the scenes on Broadway and got to see a lot of the behind the scenes production, in your perspective, what do you think makes a Broadway show amazing?
Okay, fun. Love that question. Okay. This is the thing, I've never been, interesting. In terms of performance, or actually the entire thing?
Just the entire production, because like a lot of people when they see a Broadway show, they're like, oh, the actors were amazing. But I'm like, but the lighting and the sound cues were so on point.
Oh, absolutely. I think credit where credit's due. You don't realize the power and the impact of lighting and sound until you watch it done really fucking well. Yeah. Because I think sometimes people are like, well, the actors are at the forefront, and you go and you watch the names, or you watch people that you love to watch, or the stories you want to see, and you kind of like, they're by parts of this thing you're watching, but it's not always done to the effect which really enhances the story, right? So you kind of just forget what an essential component that is. I'm going to bring it back to appropriate again. Everyone's going to be like, she's obsessed with the show. I am. It was phenomenal. But there was one of the best parts of the show, like performances aside, was, did you see it?
Appropriate?
Yeah.
No.
Oh my god. Okay. So one of the best parts was like, it's all taking place on a kind of like plantation ranch, like a house in the south.
Okay.
So the set for one is like stunning, which hats off to them, incredible work. But the lighting design at the end, there's a whole passage and sequence where they show the house gradually getting older. So much so that a tree begins to grow out of the ground into the house. And also, spoiler alert, but...
was it a projection? Or
no.
It was...
No.
Wow.
Actual like tree, well, they did it with lighting, so that at first it would be like the back window would be lit and there's like rave lights, so it looks, and then a glass window gets shattered and all of a sudden it's become some sort of like an abandoned house that's been used for a party. And then there's like another one where all of a sudden the rain's beating against it, another one where like there's snowstorms and like all these different kind of visual effects to like show the passage of time. So sound and lighting in that was just incredible, and the way that they kind of did the lights too is like the house would become almost distorted in that sense. It looked like a different house each time. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in terms of like lighting and sound.
So would you say it's like it's all the departments, it's the light, the sound management, actors, crew, all of them being in harmony to create, so it's not just one thing.
Absolutely.
Right?
No, like I feel I think the shows that I've always really, really loved and enjoyed, I've never been one for like huge spectacle in that sense. Like I think there are some shows like Aladdin, for example, almost can be seen as quite spectacle, or like Back to the Future, which I did really enjoy, but like that's very like spectacle heavy. I think sometimes people can underestimate the idea of like simplicity, like simple but really specific choices. Like one set, one location. And then people being really clever with that. Like, that's always really exciting for me to see. You know what I mean? But there's so many components. There's so many components for it to work and be great. Absolutely.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, everyone's got their part to play. But I often think some of the best theatre in the world, though, can just be like an incredible actor in like a black box theatre. Like, that's just as impressive to me. as a spectacle Broadway show, if not more.
So how did you actually get into working in kind of the Broadway world? How did you get that done?
That was, so in the final year of drama school, I was working in admissions.
Yeah.
So I was working in admissions after graduating.
Yeah.
And yeah, one of my friends, Hunter, worked for them as well.
Okay.
So worked for Sound Associates. And I was looking to go into something that was, part of that world still. And then he was like, yeah, you should. He recommended me for the job, and then I started there. Yeah, bitches. I know. Which I feel really lucky about. I do, because I'm so grateful in the fact that even if I wasn't doing it, and I still feel grateful for that, even though it's different and it's a little bit more disconnected, like I do feel grateful that that environment has never felt alien to me.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like I've been in the theatre since leaving school in one way or another.
Yeah.
So I'm very lucky for that. Yeah.
I talked about in a previous episode with Kian. I talked about the power of networking and connections.
Yeah.
And this is a really good example.
Yeah.
It's like, you get recommended for jobs, and it's like, and I also feel like that's some of the best kind of connections you have is like all through recommendations, and like a lot of the jobs I got were from recommendations and people that recommended me, because then people are like, okay, I trust this person's judgment, I trust them, I'm sure they're going to be good for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that is huge. It's like, it's so huge to be, but it's really tricky.
Yeah,
and that's the thing too, is
what
like,
it's challenges.
It's, but this is the thing, is like, I've never been a person, and I think it just depends on who you are as a person, who goes out to make a connection with someone looking for something in return. Does that make sense? It's always been a byproduct of meeting someone who does a specific thing, and you just get, I hate to say it, but sometimes you just get really lucky with what's like presented to you.
I agree, yeah.
But I think that's a thing of just like really enjoying like meeting different people.
Yeah.
I'm not cutthroat enough, I think, to like go out and be like, right, I need to like meet someone who's going to get me into that theatre and get into that.
That's not how it works. Because people sense desperation.
I think that, and also
really
there's
sense it, and people like that.
It's like also a sense of like it's inauthentic. Like it's like it's so bizarre. So that whole notion of it is weird to me. Making connections for that, it's never been so much because I want something from people or feel like they can enhance my career, because I think that's insane.
Yeah.
Because I think only you can really.
It should happen kind of naturally.
And I think like you're fully responsible for that. Like I think that it's on you, it's on other people, and I think like there's a certain grit that's required of that. Like if you're not lucky enough to come from, I think as well. Like I moved to the US with nothing really. I didn't have any connections. I didn't have any way in.
Yeah.
Per se, but it was like the actual love of it and the grit of it and like really wanting it. I think that still like kept me here and still somehow managed to like I found my way in little areas of it. Do you know what I mean?
Before moving here, I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
I didn't know a soul.
Not one.
And then it starts with the academy. You make friends, and then it's like you just kind of grow from there.
And I think there's like a really gorgeous thing too of oh my god, who's the actor from Get Out? The main actor from Get Out.
Oh my god.
But I remember him saying.
I can't remember, but he's great.
He was incredible. I'm going to be really annoyed after this. I can't remember his name. But he had I watched like an interview, an interview of his that I loved, which he was basically saying, I don't get why, just going back to like connections, why people feel the need to chase after the top dogs and like the people in power and the people who run these things. He was like, the best kind of connections and ways to work and to be engaged is to be in your circle. So like starting with people that you know. Yeah. Like, people from school and or people that you've met on jobs. Like I've done so many things where like I've somehow met someone on a job and then become friends with them, and then they've recommended me for something. Or you've met another friend that way. So yeah, it really is like
it's not always like for job purposes, but also like I met so many amazing friends that I hang out with,
hey, that's more
and
important.
we're like amazing, and we go to the gym together, and we get lunch and all that. So it's like,
I think that's almost more important than meeting people for the jobs.
Exactly.
Especially in New York, like especially in like this kind of like hustle city, you need a good couple of people that can really
circle that you can rely on.
Honestly,
and
like work be work, like that will always come. But I think having people that understand you and also knowing what you go through is like so important.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And also, actually, just aside from that, having friends that have nothing to do with acting.
Yes.
How refreshing.
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
I don't have to talk about self-tapes and like, are you in anything at the moment?
I think that's really important to get as well. It's just like a sense of normality.
I have a lot of friends that, you know, they're in corporate jobs.
I love
like,
that.
I have a friend that's in cybersecurity.
Oh, wow.
And I remember once I asked her, I was like, so what do you do for your job? And she was like, oh, you don't want to hear about it. It's so boring. And I'm like, no, trust me, I do. I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, tell me something different.
Like, tell me something different. Like, I want to know more about cybersecurity. And she was like,
right.
Really? I was like, yes, I'm telling more, you know? And then they get so surprised, and I'm like, okay, I do this and this and that.
Yeah.
And it's like, people that have nothing, it is so refreshing.
Absolutely.
Probably most of my friends that I have outside of the academy are not actors.
I love that.
But
that's so cool. I think as well, like, most of mine are actors, but I think that's just because in the circles I run in.
Because
that makes sense.
Because of your job and
I think so, man. Like,
stuff,
if you work in a theatre,
which obviously
is like, if you work in a theatre, everyone's
it's gonna,
or retired performer, or want to be a performer, or studying, or are fully working on the job. So like, that's just kind of, I think, the bubbles in which I like float. But I do understand.
This was an amazing conversation, by the way. You're so interesting.
That's
so
cool.
Do you have any advice for anyone that maybe wants to go work behind the scenes on Broadway, or a fellow actor?
Oh gosh.
Word of wisdom.
Word of wisdom. I think just, I know, it sounds really cliche, but just be like a good human. Don't let your ego. Just don't let your ego, because I think that I've met so many actors who like. Either it's like the air of desperation to get in that gives them an ego, or like they're there because they want something.
Just be a good person.
Just be a good person.
Just be a good person. Be kind.
Don't be an arsehole.
Treat everyone with respect.
Yeah, genuinely. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's usually all I can say.
No, I don't think that's cliche at all. I think more people need to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, my love.
Thank you so much for this chat.
On the talking so about high five. That was good.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
That's my love.
And have an amazing day.
Have an amazing day.
Bye.